Let's continue. And we looked in Prana pranayama descriptions of Nadis. We talked about Ida, Pingala, Sushumna, greatest mysterious Sushumna. And let's look more information about that. So we talked about the transcendental experiences you got when you rise up through Sushumna, your Kundalini Shakti. Shakti, it's the energy, another name of Prana you can say in this context. The locations of some of the other major nadis are the follows. So there's some other nadis, these channels, and throughout the body, as I told you. Gandhari flows from the corner of the left eye to the left big toe. It is situated on the side of Ida and supports it. Gandhari can be stimulated by Baddha Padmasana. Next one, Hastijiva, flows from the right eye to the left big toe and carries energy to and from the lower part of the body. Hastijiva and Gandhari support Ida and together form the left channel. So there's not just, having the Pingala and Sushumna, there's all these other supportive channels. And that's why sometimes you might have some experience in strange parts of the body. Usually you might feel like a cold, freezing cold, rising throughout the body. Often people say this, I have this goosebumps, yeah? Goosebumps, one of the energetic representation. And usually we experience them when we have a strong fear, the goosebumps, or emotion, or we're too excited, we hear something mystical. Some people have this and they're like, I have a goosebumps. It doesn't mean it's just your reflection of the body, physical, some people can say. It also means some energy rising or the way your chakra being activated. And you feel that I told so many times, like when we felt chakras every day, when we had this, sometimes people have these sensations like a butterfly in the stomach. That's the Manipura. Or sometimes they feel like everything dropped down and they experience these sensations around Svatisthana, kind of women feel it in the uterus, this kind of stuff, or like the stomach went down. Or sometimes in Russian we say the soul ran into my heels. You can feel it usually when you get like, very scared or amused about something. Your soul, you feel like it's all drained and kicked into your heels. You feel it into your heels. And you feel like you shrinked maybe or expanded. So all these things, it's this energetic aspects, the pranic body, nadis and chakras. So let's look at the next one. Yashaswini flows from the right big toe to the left ear and supports Pingala. Pusha flows from the left big toe to the right ear. Pusha and Ashaswini supports Pingala and together form the right channel. And you see the different directions of them. Alambusha begins in the anus and terminates in the mouth. Kuhu begins in the throat and terminates in the genitalis. Seminal essence is transformed to soma by this nadi. Kuhu is awakened by the practice of Vajroli. Vajroli is a very good practice we do often in the class. Shankhini begins at the throat and terminates in the anus. It flows on the left side of Sushumna between Saraswati and Gandhari. Shankhini is activated by the practice of Basti, yogic enema when we use the water. Saraswati is the nadi situated on the tongue. Those who possess gifted speech have an awakened Saraswati. Payashwini flows on the right side between Pusha and Saraswati and is complementary to Pingala. Its termination points in the right ear. Kanpata yogis awaken this nadi by wearing large earrings. And some, not just yogis do it, some other traditions have this kind of stuff. Varuni purifies toxins in the lower pelvic area along with Kuhu. It terminates at the anus and is activated by Basti and other kriyas. Vishwadari resides in the area of the navel and flows between Kuhu and Hastijiva. It is related to the adrenaline gland and the pancreas and is activated by Nauli Kriya and Uddiyana Bandha. It improves the flow of prana throughout the body and helps in the rising of prana along Sushumna. So you don't have to memorize and know where they are, these kind of things, but it's great to be aware of, specifically when you practice particular techniques, cleansing or bandhas or doing some yogasanas, even though you can be aware of those things. You will feel them, and sometimes you feel them even outside of the yoga practice. I do, and it's give me indication what's happening and what's not happening. Next point is polarity principles of Ida and Pingala, and that's a very common one. That's why people mostly have understanding generally about the Pida Ingala, about how they're opposite and how they different. And I told you one more time, we shouldn't stress about that. So it's just as an indication. It's mostly for our mind to easier understand how it works. But in reality, I told you, they're very interconnected, very exchanged. And all the descriptions were given by people through the practice. So they're not necessarily will apply to you like that in your practice. The entire universe is comprises of two forces, consciousness and energy, which are interdependent and opposite, yet complementary. That's what I say. Although they're opposite and different, yet they're very complementary to each other. The universe hangs as a kind of a web of interacting energies, suspended and functioning within the framework of tensions developed by this fundamental polarity. And that's how you, if you ever study physics or like know something about universe physics or even geography, you always need to have a gradient to start the flow, something to activate. You need a gradient. If we don't have gradient, even in the weather, nothing happens. If you don't have in a slope gradient, nothing happens much. And if there's something, if there's a tiny little gradient, you have start of some kind of processes which eventually can lead you to the bigger processes like plate tectonics, for example, if you believe in those. I've been accused by propaganda of plate tectonics or some other basic science principles. Follow them because there's acceptable one in the modern scientific community, but I don't force you to believe in anything or anything. You can believe in whatever you want and support any theory, and I'm always open to new theories. And if you have a good proof of the truth of them, or we can, together come to conclusion, yes, it's more plausible, feasible, I'm very happy for that. So the same principle works in polarity in the yoga. We always, with emotions, with energies, we have highs, we have lows. We feel too excited and then we're too depleted and sad. So these things, polarities, and not always for us they're good because they keep wearing us away, especially energetically. So the yoga practice is designed to bring you to the central line, to the peace, to the present. Wherever one looks within nature, within the body and within the mind, the polarity can be seen as light and the dark, positive and negative, male and female, and so on. At every level, there is two great principles or force are at work, creating and motivating the universe. When the cosmic polarity of prana and consciousness manifests in the microcosmic unit of the human body, it takes the forms of chitta shakti and prana shakti, which correspond to Ida Nadi and Pingala Nadi. These two mental and physical channels within the body apply to all levels of being from gross to subtle, forming the basis for every perception, activity, and experience. They represent the two distinct forces within the human environment, the ebb and flow of human existence. And that's how you also explain the materialistic world, existence of materialistic world. It's come from the spark of two opposites. And by division, there's another element of threesome. Threesome, it's like threefold when we have everything circulating through this particular three, for some reason, three stages. So if you look at some like ancient gods for different cultures, they have these three deities as well that represent in the world. It will be someone that creates everything from anything. Second one, he's dynamic, that everything operates and works. And the third one that destroys everything, and then we start all over again. But without each of them, none of them will exist. So that's kind of three points you need. Those three, turtles that hold the earth. We need them to operate the world. Otherwise, if we constantly creating universes, stars, there'll be too many and we will not exist, die. And then if humans will never die, for example, like everybody dream, we will overload the planet with bodies and excrements, and they'll be deadly for new generations. In everything, you need to create something in your everyday life. You know that you have to first destroy something. You cannot create something from nothing. So there's a threefold, three stages of everything existence. And the same in our body. We have three dominating energies. We call them gunas in yoga. We have three, these gunas represented in our sushumna, and so on. It's come throughout. And if you look at different religions, I think in Christianity, there's a threefold as well. Some people attributed it to the Godfather, the Spirit, and Trinity. So the Trinity is coming throughout everything. And there's a fundamental understanding why. Pingala represents the positive polarity and it's the solar force. That's what we learn. Physical vitality, dynamic activity, and tension are qualities of Pingala energy. It is hot in nature and corresponds to the sympathetic nervous system. Ida represents the negative polarity and it is the lunar force. Luna, it's mean like a moon. Yep. It is cold in nature and corresponds to the parasympathetic nervous system. Relaxation, passivity, and sendarity activity are qualities of Ida. The two mantras comprising the word Hatha correspond to the Ida and Pingala. Ham relates to Pingala and Nadi, and Tham and Ksham to Ida. This symbology is also seen on the two petals of Ajna chakra. The Ajna chakra, we talk about, there's two petals, left and right. It's in the eyebrow center. One of them have inscriptions in the golden Ham, and the other one is Dham or Ksham. Pingala, the extrovert force, you're outgoing, you want to interact, you're active, energetic. Yeah? Generally predominates during the daylight hours, especially in periods of physical and mental exertion, and activities requiring external interaction and attention. Ida also flows at such time, but it subordinates to the Pingala flow. In order to maintain a balance, Ida generally predominates at night, counteracting the predominant flow of Pingala during the day. Ida, the introverting force, is active while relaxing, reading, thinking, viewing television, or sleeping. And that sometimes we do need to have this great balance in our life when we cannot keep going all the time, being active and communicate with everybody. People burned out quite fast. At the same time, if you're constantly extrovert and doing these passive activities, you have to sometimes go and interact with the world. Sometimes it's hard for people who doesn't like to do that, but we have to do that to stay balanced. So link with flow of nostrils, and that's what I mentioned in one of the previous talks. Briefly, one of the nostril connected to this in Nadis Shodhana, when we alternative nostril breathing, directly about that. Yeah, eating Pingala dominates is directly related to the flow of the breath in the nostrils. Yeah, it's so easy. So the breath is so simple thing, but it's so powerful. Yeah? You can use it for different purposes. If one checks the flow of the breath at any moment, one will usually find that one nostril is more open than the other. And it doesn't mean when you kind of block nostrils, when you have a little bit of flu or something going on, gunk going on in your nose. Even if your nose is perfectly clean and you've done your cleansing and everything, you're not sick, no hay fever, nothing, you will still feel the flow goes from one, for some reason, more than other. And when I was a child, it was really, I couldn't understand why it's like that. They're both open. I put myself in the correct position. When I was a child, I was experimenting with all these things like holding the breath, different bandhas, and I didn't know it was that, but I was practicing with that. So this one very intrigued me, why we breathing one to other. But at that time, there was not much. I couldn't go to Google or YouTube, or there was no access to the knowledge like that. So be grateful we can hear it now from everywhere. Or just get a book. When the flow of breath is stronger to the left nostril, it indicates that Ida is dominant. When the flow is stronger in the right nostril, indicate that Pingala is dominant. When one is sleepy or drowsy, one will notice that the left nostril is flowing. When one is physically active, the right nostril begins to flow predominantly. Observing these phenomena, the yogis devised breathing techniques to regulate the flow of Ida and Pingala. And the next point, link with the right and left brain. I mentioned this as directly because of that too. So these techniques we use in yoga, if you really want to just general class, you want to slow down the end of the day, or usually the purpose of the yoga to prepare for meditation, and you do want to internalize. So we usually do Nadis Shodhana start with the left nostril and finish on the left nostril. So we're activating this left one. Because if you would do it with the right one, you'll be too extrovert, excited, too energetic, kind of burning like a sun, like a fire, and it will be hard for you to focus during your meditation. So know what you're doing in your yoga practice. The link, the right and left brain. The specific functions of the brain also correlate with the activities of Ida and Pingala. The cerebrum is symmetrical, consisted of right and left hemisphere. This is the brain. The right hemisphere governs the left side of the body, and the left hemisphere governs the right side of the body. Ida is connected to the right hemisphere and Pingala to the left. The right hemisphere processes information in a diffuse and holistic manner. It controls orientation in the space, in particular sensitive to the vibrational realm of existence and those experiences which are intelligible and to the external senses. That it stimulates creative, artistic, and musical abilities. It's responsible for mental, physical, and extrasensory perception. And conversely, the left hemisphere, which relates to Pingala, process information in a sequential, linear, and logical manner. And it's responsible for rational, analytical, mathematical abilities. And this way, the nadis in the brain hemisphere determine them and motivate one's responses in day-to-day life. And sometimes we do stuck in one part of the brain, and we should balance them out. That's why we do yoga. Everybody should do yoga. But sometimes we get too much. And you can see those people usually, like, for example, great mathematicians or very rational people, they very blunt to emotions or sensitivity or intuition or music in a sense. It could be that some very mathematical, logical people, very, very, very good in the music as well, and that's good. And this is like balance them out. But still, in today's world, people tend to be one or other, and or emphasize the everyday activities in the lifestyle of what they want to do. It's usually focused on one, and that's not what we're trying to do. And I was lucky enough throughout my life. I've been practicing exercising both. I was very deeply into the music, and I was very quite good in it, and artistic things, drawing, that's the kind of stuff. And at the same time, I was a very deep thinker, love science, and all this kind of stuff, and order. I was lucky that I never limited myself to one or other, and life just happened. I had abilities to exercise both, and that's very good for you. And that's what I told you about plate tectonics. I don't limit myself to one thing in the life, and I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. And at the same time, only yoga, nothing else. Nothing else doesn't exist. I don't interested in it. And at the same time, with science, for example, everything else, it's voodoo nonsense. I'm not allowed to even think about it. No, I believe you should be both. You should be as exercise emotional intuition and yogic spiritual passage as the passage in this physical world, like learn to, I don't know, build a house and study trigonometry or study biology. It's all very it's one part of this whole existence, and we cannot ignore one on the expense of other. If this is existing in this universe, like people some say, how the evil can exist in this universe, and it should be everything, it should be everybody should be kind, and how these people, for example, not very nice people exist, or these energies exist, or some. It is part of it. It's two sides of one coin, and this is the life. And you, as a yogi, find it, this central line of these two polarities. Through the life, you see this beauty in whatever, however it's expressed, because you see underlying reason of its existence. So I hope you will exercise that, and through yoga you can see that way. I'm still trying very hard. It's very hard to do, but the more you practice, the more you see through it into the glorious mystical universe existence, and the reason why we exist. We are part of it, and we are as an imprint of whatever happened in the universe. It's all in us, and but just by study yourself through simple breathing techniques, you can open up universe for yourself and understand the purpose of this existence. Hari Om.